All right, how's it going, everyone? Thanks for joining me on a new episode of Best and Worst Track of the Week on the Music Reviewer podcast for the week of June 19th. My name's Josh, and if you're new to Best and Worst Track of the Week, thanks for joining me this week. All it is a show where I take all new entries onto the Billboard Hot 100 every week, grade all new entries with the letter grade, and take one that's the worst, take one that's the best. That's all it is. And yeah, we got a bit of a loaded episode this week. Mainly centered around the latest project titled The Voice, I believe, by Lil Baby and Lil Durk. We got pretty much all their tracks this week other than the ones that already dropped a couple weeks back. So yeah, if you're interested at all in my thoughts on that project, you're probably going to get it mainly on this episode. Depending on how I feel, maybe I'll drop a full album review later, but right now it's right here. So, yeah, and we have some other artists too, if you're wanting to hear my thoughts on the latest MacDonald track or one of the latest Roddy Ricch tracks, and also some Billie Eilish. So if you're wanting to stick around, also Bad Bunny. It seems like I always get a decent amount of people that are interested when I talk about Bad Bunny. But anyways, yeah, so if you're interested in any of that stuff, please stick around. I'll be getting to it this week on Best and Worst Track of the Week. And yeah, overall, even for it being an album bomb, it wasn't all that hard to get through, and I'm expecting to have more album bombs in the coming weeks, so might as well just, do them, give my thoughts on them. And before we get started, I just want to let everyone know, yesterday I dropped a new episode of the album review series, and the album that I covered was Olivia Rodrigo's Sour. That one's been on the back burner for a bit. If you follow Best and Worst Track of the Week, you probably already heard most of my thoughts. But if you want a more expansive, commentary from me and what I really think about the album overall, please go ahead and check out that episode of Olivia Rodrigo's Sour, the album review, and then also check out her album. It wasn't bad. I did have a bit to say on it. So anyways, that's a thing. And also we have last week's episode of Best and Worst Track of the Week also dropped. If you haven't tuned into it, for the week of June 12th, it's obviously a bit old news. It's a bit of old news now, but I really did like the best track from a new Latin pop artist, Raul Alejandro. A nice little Latin pop track that doesn't really lean too much on the reggaeton stuff, so that's very rare to see, and he did it quite nicely. So if you have some time, check out that track from him. And also the worst track was by Chase Rice and Florida Georgia Line. I don't think I have to go into why I thought that was worst track of the week if you're familiar with most of Florida Georgia Line stuff. But yeah, unfortunately, they dragged Chase Rice into that. And other stuff on there, I covered that latest Eminem track that he dropped with Jack Harlow and Cordae. And then also some newer rappers that came about in this episode, Coach Ice, that sounds a lot like Playboy Cardi, and another rapper I'd never heard of, Snot. Have some thoughts on that track. And then also a more serious cut from a now deceased rapper, MO3, and another one, OG Bobby Williams. So if you're interested, check out that episode of Best and Worst Track of the Week. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So yeah, like I said earlier, this is going to be an album bomb from the latest Lil Baby and Lil Durk project, The Voice. Lots of tracks coming in from that project. I think, if I counted right, maybe about 13 or 14. But yeah, it should be as expected with those two names that we would have gotten at least some sort of heavy-hitting entry with that project. And I don't know, I think this project really disturbed the charts because we're still dealing with the aftermath on here with like what Olivia Rodrigo's album bomb did, and now we're kind of dealing with this. It definitely made the charts look a bit interesting, especially after the top quarter or so. I noticed a lot of those Olivia Rodrigo tracks dropped heavily, and then also we had a nice lengthy list of dropouts too. And then of course we're probably going to get another one next week. I'm not sure yet, but it seems like it might be Polo G, maybe Migos, we'll see. But some highlights on the chart overall. Butter is still at number 1 by BTS at 3 weeks. I'm kind of impressed by this because I don't really hear or see that much buzz around this track as like maybe Dynamite did, but it seems to be just as big as Dynamite possibly. So we'll have to see on that. Nothing else too interesting on the top 10 other than that Bad Bunny entry at number 10. Forever After All by Luke Combs up to 13. This track has been in radio and country rotation for a while, and it's been steadily climbing higher and higher. And, I think it's peaked maybe higher than this, possibly. I think when it debuted, and it just seems like it just has a resurgence of popularity. I don't know what's picking this up. And then, of course, our following the latest news with Heat Waves by Glass Animals. It's up to 24 this week. I think it went up one spot. I don't know if the momentum is slowing down, but it seems like it cracked the top quarter, and that's pretty interesting to see, following like the progression that this track took. Several album drops, like I said earlier, from the Olivia Rodrigo album bomb. Not too surprising. I think some of it will stick around for a while, though. The last week's best track, Todo de Ti by Raul Alejandro, up to 53. Seems like it gained a little bit of traction. We'll have to see what happens to it in the coming weeks. One of our worst tracks of the week, a few months ago, one of the good ones by Gabby Barrett, dropped out. That hung around for a bit. And then Hell of a View by Eric Church, I think his only single, making it into the top 100. Unfortunately, already dropping out. Killer by Eminem, only 1 week on the chart, dropped out. And then several other tracks that have been on the charts, for a good decent amount of time. Some tracks by Lil Baby and other various artists I saw in there finally dropped out. But at this point, they're a bit of old news. But yeah, that's pretty much what I found interesting this week. Let's go ahead and move on to the tracks. All right, so starting out this week, we have If You Want To by Lil Baby and Lil Durk at 99. And on this track, honestly, it's not bad. The beat is a bit static, though, and a little anticlimactic. But I do think this track does a decent job providing a nice introduction of, what this whole project seems to be about, even though I don't know if this is the intro track or not. But it kind of just summarizes things in a bit, kind of self-reflecting on their role as being some sort of role models to people living this sort of difficult life in the quote-unquote hood, and just like a candid commentary of, things that they went through when they were in that environment. But the instrumental, I do like the drill beat sort of influence with the deep wobbly sub bass supporting the track. I dig that that's there, but it is blended in a bit with Lil Durk's typical piano centric instrumentals. It mashes up, I guess, decently. But yeah, I just think it was a bit static at many points and a little anticlimactic, so I give this a B. Okay, next track is Up the Side by Lil Baby, Lil Durk, and Young Thug at 80. This was a little bit better. Thugger kind of sounds like a less enthusiastic Lil Wayne, but I thought the comparison was quite stark. The beat even sounds a bit 2000s as well. There's a soft texture to Thug's delivery, though, that is nice. The references to the album, the voice are here as well. The hook isn't the worst thing I've heard either, but the lyrical content can be a bit typical. It's about flaunting money and whatnot. So, yeah, I gave this track a B. Alright, so next track, Please by Lil Baby, Lil Durk at 79. I will say this track sounds a bit distinct. It's structured around a beat that has a non-16 note hi-hat pattern. It's kind of rare to hear that. The beat aims to be a bit more ambient and colorful at some points, but it can feel a bit empty at times with how sporadic the bass hits are on certain points. There is a huge emphasis on crooning on here. Lil Baby dominates most of the track in that regard. It is a bit unfitting at times. There is like a hook that is worked up to, where he eventually ends on saying, I want to please your body, and it's a bit cringe in my opinion. But I guess Lil Durk saves it a little bit with, his sort of verse and lyrically he goes about discussing things about how, I guess, people can be shitty parents and serious stuff like that, and how it causes issues in society or whatnot. But, yeah, overall I wasn't too pleased. I gave this track a C. And next track, The Facts by Lil Baby and Lil Durk. I don't have too much to say about this one either. This one just kind of goes a J. Cole route and brags about net worth. The depth of being able to buy things like fancy cars and cash, that sort of thing. The beat is a bit skeletal. The sharpness of the percussive textures isn't all that flattering. I gave this a C. Next track, by Lil Baby and Lil Durk at 70, Lying. Kind of just sounds like the stuff Durk made with King Von, which isn't all that bad. It has the angsty and direct presence Lil Durk drives on. And Lil Baby doesn't quite hit as much as like Lil Durk does on this track. The fast rap singing style is a bit unimpactful in a sense. And the instrumental was quite as expected and minimal, but honestly, it isn't bad. I gave it a B-. Next track by Lil Durk and Lil Baby, featuring Rodwave at 68, Rich Out Pain. This one was nice. It honestly sounds pretty standard for a Rodwave song. It sounds more like a Rodwave song than anything. I think the main producer he goes with is on this song here too. There's some spaced out big sub bass hits on here. Lil Baby's delivery and flow sounds a bit more natural over this sort of thing. The color on his voice is soft and matches the lightness of certain aspects of the instrumental, so it's not bad. I give it a B. Next track by Lil Baby and Lil Durk at 67, Medical. This is honestly one of the more colorful tracks I've heard on this project thus far. The warm and rumbly bass. The piano is sparkly and bright at times. Lil Baby sounds a bit whiny, which isn't, I guess, all that rare. He sounds whiny quite a bit. The warped and choppy backing vocals throughout the track are interesting, but it's a bit mid. It's interesting at times, but I expected more at certain points. I give it a B. Man of My Word by Lil Baby and Lil Durk at 60. The instrumental has a drill beat sort of style on here. The synth string soaring over at points can give the track a forced melodramatic nature, I think, but the static and stiff piano usage can make the track a bit underdeveloped. Not much progression going on here. It's pretty straightforward. I don't like how focused the instrumental is on the piano track because it's pretty uninteresting, so I give it a C. Next track by Lil Baby and Lil Durk at 58. Okay, another triplet ostinato piano melody structuring the track. It's starting to sound a bit unimaginative at this point with a lot of the instrumentals. Lil Durk's rap singing sounds decent on here. It's a bit better than the nasally delivery Lil Baby's usually putting on these songs. The phrasing he puts is sensitive and mature, I guess. So I guess Lil Durk kind of gives this song some sort of saving grace, but I give it a C. Next track by Lil Baby and Lil Durk with Who I Want at 46. I love the soft backing vocals that embellish this track. The overcandid sex track, though, that's expected on a hip-hop project definitely makes an appearance with this track. I guess there's a sensitive nature here where Durk acknowledges he actually has feelings for a certain woman. The glitchy nature of the beat on the verses isn't bad. I thought this track was okay. Give it a B. Next track by Lil Baby, Lil Durk, and Meek Mill at 43, still running. This track definitely has an energetic nature to it. That is missing on a lot of this project, and it's definitely needed at this point when I'm covering a lot of these tracks. The track definitely also goes with this dark and sinister nature that's been missing as well. I think all these artists sort of thrive on that sort of thing, and it doesn't really make an appearance all that often. The piano chord progression at points gives like a certain eeriness to this track as well. There's some angst to it right off the bat. We definitely get the commentary about gangbanging events that these artists are good at doing. The track was pretty solid, concise, and to the point. I give it a B. How It Feels by Lil Baby and Lil Durk at 34. The slurred Lil Baby delivery makes an appearance here. The hook can blend in a bit with the verses too. It's a little undistinguished. And Lil Durk just sounds better taking this flow and making it his own than Lil Baby, I think. And he at least makes the track sound a bit more impactful. And there's actually a cool transition after the second verse that's pretty nice, where they kind of trade off going into the hook. And I thought it was okay. The track was a bit underdeveloped, though. I give it a B. Next at 31, 2040 by Lil Baby and Lil Durk. Lil Baby takes a little too long on his verses. I think that's kind of a common theme at many points. But the rap singing is good that he goes on. The track takes too long to have any variation, though. And again, the track just doesn't become all that interesting until Lil Durk comes in. As soon as he does make an appearance, it's more impactful, and he has angsty delivery to him. It's just more believable, and he sells the gangster rap aesthetic a bit more than Lil Baby, in my opinion. I guess the track does go for the notion that Lil Baby is going to be killing the game for a really long time, because I guess 2040. So I guess cool subject matter. But I gave it a B. Next, to switch it up, Lost Cause by Billie Eilish at 27. A lot of bass on this track, like a lot. But I do like the lax drum tempo and how the drum track structures the track overall. And the clear and punchy bass line that pops in and out of the track is quite nice and interesting. It makes the track a bit more captivating. But I also do like the bright electronic elements that pop into the track as well. It just makes everything a bit more vibrant. And the end can feel a bit Mac DeMarco with the wobbled guitar tone. Maybe some light Men I Trust influence on this track. I give this a B. And back to Lil Baby and Lil Durk, this time with Travis Scott at 16, hats off. I honestly expected more from this. There is a nice ambient, like, synthy introduction that sounds like something off of Stranger Things, the show. Other than that, it's just structured by these fuzzy and lush synths. The track sounds a bit like most of other instrumentals on this project, and I thought with Travis Scott in here would have sounded a bit more, different. Again, the track doesn't really get all that captivating until Lil Durk comes in, which it's really odd that this is a reoccurring theme. His crooning just sounds a bit more refined. Travis at least takes some time, or takes some initiative to make the verse sound distinct on his part, but yeah, like I said, it could have been a bit better. I gave it a B. And finally, at number 10, debuting so high at number 10, Yonaguni by Bad Bunny. On this track here, with it being a Bad Bunny track, it's not hard to see why it was going to have quite a bit of popularity coming out, but I really tried hearing or listening for anything that maybe was pushing it to, debut so high, maybe this being another breakout hit for Bad Bunny, considering this is a United States chart mainly. And honestly, this is a good track. I'm just not sure. It's not great. It's fine. I'm just not sure what to think. Overall, the track has some bright electronic elements that come in at points that are melodic and colorful. The percussive elements on here are just quite dominating. The bass hits and the reggaeton snare line up like unison and cut through a bit, especially on that chorus. And Bunny just sounds true to form here. He seems to lean heavily on the vocal chops at times on this track, with the sense that this is supposed to be more of an emotional performance. But it's not as impactful or engaging as many of the tracks on his last two projects, I have to say. Like I said, it's fine. I just don't know how this is distinct or maybe a bit distinguished overall as he's making, I guess, newer music. We'll see. And there is a more ambient instrumental towards the end that's a bit nice that, I guess, changes it up a little bit. So I gave this a B. So it's that time of the episode where I give best and worst track of the week. We always start on worst track of the week to end up on a positive note. And depending on the title of this video, you may or may not see this coming, but the worst track of the week was Snowflakes by MacDonald at 71. I always have fun, I guess, trying to listen and make what I can out of these MacDonald tracks. And you know what? He does this cardinal sin. Like, if I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, at least don't start your songs with these cheaply grotesque, Bush League guitar, introductions with these guitar riffs that open up sounding like it was written by a middle school kid that's been playing in the room for 2 weeks, and they're just coming up with something that they think sounds okay. For someone who's described as really to be killing the rap game, the production isn't all that flattering at some points. It's a bit Bush League, and it sounds like Sweet Dreams by Marilyn Manson. Like, that riff was diluted to be suited for the beginner mode on Guitar Hero or something like that, even though the guitar riff itself is quite simple to begin with. But the track, lyrically, like content-wise, it takes the all too common regurgitated conservative talking point that complain about people complaining about stuff. The viewpoint of holding your diluted, watered-down ideas of quote-unquote America to be the absolute truth when they were never even officially established by anything. And I'm sorry, Tom, if it's hard being a straight white male, but maybe be a bit more specific, or at least know a bit more about the faction of people that actually hold these condemning beliefs about yourself. Especially if you feel those matters are so urgent and important. I'd maybe like to learn something more about these people, if they actually exist, that goes beyond the this is like that metaphors that engulf the track. It's very undescript when you do that. And it just sounds like Hobson Light. It's trying to be very woke, but it's just Hobson Light. And also he's Canadian. He's not American. So, considering a lot other conservative talking points, usually those line up with having outside perspectives outside of an American viewpoint being wrong. So yeah, MacDonald is Canadian. If you're a fan of MacDonald, he is Canadian. But anyways, yeah, worst track of the week. And best track of the week. I don't know. This one kind of won by default. This was just the track that I thought was the most enjoyable. Late at Night by Roddy Ricch. And I do tend to hold Roddy a bit favorably. I don't think he's the best thing since sliced bread, but he's certainly decent at what he does. I love the energy of the lush synths on this track, pulsing in and out. I like the clicky trap percussion on here. It works. And honestly, I think he takes a bit from the Book of Khalid, that other R&B rap singer. But it just sounds more mature and engaging than most of Khalid's tracks. And when Roddy Ricch goes into his higher range at points, it really works. It hits quite nicely. And the track has a bit of a groove to it, even when the track texturally feels at its lightest. So I thought it was a nice production going on here and a nice performance by Roddy. Best track of the week goes to Late at Night by Roddy Ricch. But anyways, that's the gist of the episode. If you stuck with me to the end of this, thanks. Even though it was a long one with the Lil Baby and Lil Durk album bomb. Sometimes, we just got to get through them. But anyways, thanks for listening to me this week, and I hope you tune in next week. My name is Josh. Leave a like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Leave a comment what I did good or bad, especially if you're a Tom MacDonald fan. I like hearing your bad comments. And also subscribe if you're on your preferred listening service as well. And I'll see you guys later.